Hey, you guys. Just giving myself a minute to get situated. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, just depending on whatever time it is, where you are. So, I want to talk about a few things this morning. This is probably going to be pretty quick because I know it's early for everyone. Well, not everyone, but it might be early for you if you're in the continental US. So, I'm going to give everybody a minute to get the notification and then we'll get started. All right, I'm going to check the chat. Oh, you guys, I've been wanting to talk about this since yesterday, but I didn't really have my thoughts organized. Oh, hey, it's some people in the chat. Hey, Mika. Hey, Bruna. Hi, Delphia. Hope you all are having a wonderful morning. Oh, okay. It's 10:31 here on the East Coast. So, what made me think of this topic is all the stuff that's been going on with Cardi B. I'm sure you all have seen some of the comments she has made about Black bloggers. So I said, okay, I need to talk about her. And then it also made me think about Kim Kardashian and the rest of those girls and some of the comments that they have made about Black women. So we're going to get into it. I'm going to throw some links in the chat here. Give me just a minute. Just so we can have some reminders. Because, see, this is what it is. Overall, a lot of these women, when they're initially coming into Hollywood, the easiest way for them to come up and get social connections is if they are connected to Black women. But then what happens is once they get to a certain position, they no longer want to be associated with Black women. And so you'll start to see them doing things to distance themselves. Now, Cardi B, if you are familiar with her come up, she was on Love and Hip Hop New York, I believe. And prior to her getting on Love and Hip Hop New York, because of her antics on Instagram, she already had a little over 1 million followers. So she had a bit of a following, but then she gets on Love and Hip Hop, her career takes off, and then we have Bodak Yellow. Now, the Shade Room, back in 2016 or 2017, had a post encouraging people to help Cardi B's Bodak Yellow get to number 1. Right? The young lady who is a Black woman who runs the Shade Room was encouraging all of her followers to support Bodak Yellow. And in the caption, she said, well, Bodak Yellow would be the second song to go number 1 that was a woman as a solo artist. The Shade Room. Once the song went to number 1, Nicki Minaj was one of the first celebrities to get onto social media and congratulate Cardi for having a number 1, which is significant because as successful as Nicki Minaj is, because she owns her masters and because there's no label that really has control over her, her music doesn't get promoted enough to get her to a number 1. So even though Nicki Minaj herself has never had a number 1, she had no problem supporting Cardi when she got the number 1. When Cardi B tried to assault Nicki Minaj at the Harper's Bazaar after party at New York Fashion Week, it was Black women, including Black women who are celebrities, who defended Cardi B to the point that the DA's office decided not to press charges because they realized this girl has a lot of public support. So Not to say that it doesn't take a certain amount of hard work to get to where Cardi is, but let's be honest. She would not be in the position that she's in if it were not for Black women supporting her every step of the way. And as long as you're a Black woman who praises Cardi and uplifts and supports everything that she does, she has no problem with you. But because the Shade Room posted the same story about Offset that TMZ and every major news organization posted, Cardi B decided to cyberbully the woman who's in charge of the Shade Room and tried to say, oh, these Black bloggers are always, commenting on urban culture and are posting negative information. And while she called herself supporting Little Kim and Remy Ma, she shaded them and City Girls in the process because she said, look at the pictures they post of Little Kim, Remy Ma, and City Girls. They always post the ugliest pictures and set them up to be dragged. So it's like, okay, you just looked at these women who are supposed to be your homegirls and either called them ugly, or you're saying that the pictures that are floating around of them are ugly. So you shaded these women in the process. And by going off on these Black bloggers and using Black women's names in your rant, nobody's going to look at you and call you racist for going off on these Black women because you're using Black women to support your message. And this is something that Nicki Minaj has pointed out about Cardi B. Because you do understand that the beef that Cardi has with Nicki Minaj is because Cardi wanted Nicki Minaj to have a feature on her album, and Nicki said no because of the controversy that occurred after Motorsport. Nicki Minaj said no. Cardi B perceived it as shade and has hated Nicki Minaj ever since. But a point that Nicki Minaj made on Queen Radio is she was like, if you're so cool with Little Kim and Remy Ma, why didn't you give them the feature? These are your girls. Why didn't you ask them to be on your song? Why? Because Cardi B, like a lot of other non-Black women, only want associations with Black women when it's beneficial to them. They're never going to help revitalize a Black woman's career or help a Black woman come up. So because Nicki Minaj, she's outsold every other woman in hip hop. She has more Billboard hits than every other woman in history, period, across all musical genres. The association with Nicki Minaj would benefit Cardi B. At this particular point, now this is not to say that Little Kim was not legendary and groundbreaking in the 90s, but at this particular point, if Cardi B put Little Kim on a song, that association would be more beneficial to Little Kim than it would be to Cardi B. And the same thing with Remy Ma. So if you notice, these women will never do anything to help a Black woman. They only are in those friendships when it's beneficial. And sometimes I feel like when it comes to us as Black women, because we're so distrustful of each other, we recognize when we're being used by another Black woman. But because we're not taught to distrust non-Black women in the same way, we don't recognize when we're being used by those women. Hi, Hyper Fanatic. Welcome to the channel. Thank you for subscribing. Bruna, Cardi and Young Miami are on the same record label. That's the only reason they do music together, is because they're on the same label. So it's like, you'll notice these women, they use Black women, but we just don't see it because we're not taught to distrust them. And sometimes you have to really think about something. And I'm not saying that this is in every situation, because I have friends across racial lines, and I'm sure that many of you do as well. I'm just saying that a lot of times when people befriend you as an adult, they have an ulterior motive. Most of the people that I know, myself included, they will tell you that their most genuine friendships are with people that they met in childhood or maybe in their young adult years. Like people that you met and you like each other because you have things in common. You like each other because of your personalities. You get along, or maybe you don't have a lot in common, but your differences complement each other. So you learn from each other. You gain from the experience in a way that's not tangible, in a way that's not based on money or, social climbing. Just be aware that sometimes the friendships that you make in your adult life will be people associating themselves with you because they feel like it's beneficial. You'll particularly see this on your jobs, or if you are in any type of community organizations, you may see it there. Because I think a lot of times when you run in certain circles, you might be used to certain things. So you may not sit back and realize that, okay, the people that I regularly associate with, they're all successful people. And there might be people who will befriend you simply because they want access to the people that you're connected to. And I feel like I've seen that with Cardi B and Kim Kardashian, and I'll get to her and her sisters in a minute. But I'm just paying attention to the fact that now that Cardi B, she's had a successful album, she's got the Grammy, she has her other accolades, and now she's separating herself from the very people that helped her get her foot in the door. Because now you notice she says she doesn't want bloggers talking about her. So she doesn't want the Shade Room talking about her. She had a problem with the Shade Room because of the guy that used to be, I believe, a senior editor. And now he has his own blog, The Neighborhood Talk. She didn't want him posting her. She's got a list of blogs that she doesn't want posting her. But I noticed that when they were posting her and encouraging people to listen to her music so that she could get to #1, she had no problem with it. When they were posting her and uplifting her and suggesting that she was the new it girl and suggesting that she was replacing women like Nicki Minaj, she had no problem with these people posting her. She had no problem with these people uplifting her to shade Black women. She had no problem with these blogs posting her and supporting her when they were laughing at the fact that she tried to assault Nicki Minaj. She had no problems with the blogs posting her then. But because every story is no longer positive, she no longer wants the association. And I'm going to tell y'all something that a lot of non-Black women do. Once they get to a certain point in their careers, they like to hit the reset button. And that reset button is supposed to allow them to change their image, right? So that as more time goes by, you no longer talk about how they initially came up. Because remember too, when Cardi initially came up, she was saying some of the most outrageous things. She was talking about her vagina and other very private and uncouth things that you don't normally hear in polite conversation. But now that she's coming up, she's distancing herself from that. She's distancing herself from the very blogs that put her where she is. She's trying to do what I call the Kim Kardashian reset. So I'm going to talk about Kim now and also her sisters. Okay? Because as more time goes by, people no longer pay attention to how Kim Kardashian got to where she is. But if you go back to the beginning, Kim Kardashian, after her separation from Paris Hilton at one point, Kim Kardashian was really good friends with Sierra Kelly Rowland, and Lala Anthony. And I think she's still cool with Lala. You have to remember that back when she initially was cool with Sierra, Sierra was a Wilhelmina model. Wilhelmina models, you know, that's like the top modeling agency in the world, along with like ING models. How do you think that Kim Kardashian became so well connected in the fashion world? Because she was friends with girls who were getting the invites to the Tom Ford, the Fendi, you know, the Versace and the Chanel parties. And then once Kim Kardashian got to a certain point in her career, you see her spending less time with Sierra and Kelly Rowland. You'd still see her with Lala Anthony from time to time, but you see her spending less time with Sierra and Kelly Rowland. Then she starts dating Kanye West. She gets pregnant. They get engaged. And once they were engaged, Kim Kardashian starts getting the invites to all the A-list celebrity events, including the Met Gala. Kim Kardashian was shut out from the Met Gala until Kanye West proposed to her. Remember, the first year she went to the Met Gala, she was very pregnant with North West. It was the year she wore that flower-looking dress. Right? And also Kim was really good friends with Trina, and she was really good friends with Blac Chyna. If you watched Keeping Up with the Kardashians back in the day, you'll remember an episode that showed her and Kris Jenner working out with Blac Chyna. And what did Kim Kardashian do with those associations? She used those associations, to help hook her sisters up with men. Okay? Because Kylie Jenner got with Tyga while he was still engaged to Blac Chyna. Khloe Kardashian got with French Montana while he was dating Trina. And James Harden also dated Trina before he dated Khloe Kardashian. Okay? And I don't know if you remember this because this show didn't last very long. But for a brief period of time, Khloe Kardashian had a late night talk show. Now, even though the family was supposed to be really, really good friends with Sierra, back in 2016, hey, Mariah, in 2016, you know, people were having all of these conversations about Sierra and Russell Wilson's relationship. This is while they were engaged, and they had publicly, or maybe they weren't quite engaged yet, I don't know. But they had publicly announced that they were going to be celibate until marriage. So Khloe decided to talk about it on her late night show. And I posted the link to what she said. I will repost the article again. Yep, hyperfanatic. See, you know why it's easy to not know that they were connected to all those Black women? Because so much time has passed. And so as time passes, it's easy to forget a lot of this stuff, right? But on her night show, Khloe Kardashian said, well, I don't understand why they're celibate because Sierra has a baby, so it's not like we don't know that she's not a virgin. That's what that shady cunt said. That because Sierra already had a child, it was no reason for her to not have sex with Russell Wilson. Now, there was a guy on the show, and his point was just like, oh, well, you know, Sierra and Russell Wilson, you know, he feels like they're such a beautiful couple that they should have been enjoying each other in that way. So he wasn't being shady about it. And he's right. They are a beautiful couple, you know. But Khloe had to come in with the shade and only backtracked from her statements when social media called her out on it. That's why I don't feel bad for anything that has happened with Khloe Kardashian. Because she pretty much was saying that Sierra didn't deserve to be honored and respected because she was a single mom. And now Sierra is happily married to the man in the NFL who's making more money than any other NFL player. And Sierra, I mean not Sierra, but Khloe Kardashian is dealing with Tristan Thomas or Thompson, whatever his last name is. But at the time, there was nothing in her that felt like, well, maybe I shouldn't say it like this because this is my friend, this is my sister's friend. Because remember, that reset button is only supposed to be for white women and other non-Black women. See, this is another reason that people got in their feelings about Sierra, because Sierra did something that a lot of people don't feel like Black women should be able to do, because as Black women, we don't have a margin of error. People don't give us room to make mistakes and learn from those mistakes. Now, Sierra's child, I'm not calling the baby a mistake, but the relationship with the child's father was a mistake. But it's like people felt like she didn't deserve to be able to move on with her life. People just felt like, oh, that one decision should have been curtain closed for Sierra. And it was not only was it Black men who felt that way, but it was some non-Black women. And notice, Khloe is a white woman that primarily dates Black men. And so she hopped her behind on her talk show and basically repeated a Black male talking point by saying, well, I don't see why she's celibate, because it's not like we don't know that she's had sex because she has a child. That comment was shady, even if Khloe didn't know Sierra. But the fact that they knew each other, they rolled in the same social circles, and they were friends, that was very, very shady. Because what she basically was saying is, as a Black woman, you don't have the opportunity to reset and start over and make better decisions. And I also feel like another thing people got upset about with Russell Wilson is that his first wife was a white woman. And so no one expected him to go from, being married to a white woman to marrying a beautiful, elegant, classy woman who happens to be Black and beautiful like Sierra. See, that's what they get mad about. But all of those girls use their friendships with Black women to come up. And then when they get to a certain place where they feel like they have, quote unquote, surpassed those women, they no longer want anything to do with them. I agree with you, Mariah. I don't see what the hype is about them. Hey, I can care less. I don't see what the hype is about them. But sometimes I feel like I have to point these things out, because the other thing, like, remember back in the day, people used to try to say that Beyonce was jealous of Kim Kardashian. And they were like, well, that's why Beyonce doesn't befriend Kim. It's not jealousy. If you notice with Beyonce, the people that you see her be friendly with are people that she has known for a very long time. She's been friends with Kelly Rowland since they were like 9 or 10 years old. I believe that she's rekindled her friendship with LaToya Luckett. They grew up together as well. I think she's still friends with Michelle Williams from Destiny's Child. They've known each other for at least 10 years. And then you see her around her cousin, Angie Beyoncé. And then, who's the other girl I was thinking about? I think she's cool with Lala. I think she's cool with Serena and Sierra. But you really just see her around the same people. Beyonce is just not, I don't think she's antisocial, but I think she's very careful about her friendships. And she probably looked around and was like, okay, I see how you're using all of these Black women to social climb, and I'm not about to let you do that to me. Because back when Kanye and Kim got married, people made it an issue that Beyonce and Jay-Z didn't go to the wedding. But this is what I was thinking, right? If Beyonce and Jay-Z decided to appear on any network, they would get a couple $1 million. Like, you see how much money Beyonce just got from Netflix, $60 million. When she was doing those HBO specials, I think she was getting something between like 10 and $20 million. So they know how this works. Okay, if I'm in the audience at your wedding and this is televised, you're going to have more people watching the show because I'm there. You know, Beyonce has a lot of fans. She has the Beehive. So even if it's just a 30-second clip, people would watch it just to see her. And then you have celebrities, like I think she performed at this wedding in India and got a couple $1 million. So they get paid to perform at weddings all the time, but the difference is those weddings are not televised. See, when something is televised, it's going to be aired repeatedly. So you want me to show up for free and I'm an A-list celebrity? So then what E! Network tried to do is they told Beyonce and Jay-Z that if you perform at the wedding, we'll pay you $2 million. Now, $2 million is a lot of money to the everyday average person. But $2 million is pretty much a club appearance for A-list celebrities. And that's a club appearance, again, that's not televised. So you're not going to have something that you can air over and over and over again. So I peeped what it was. What it was is they got it. They were like, okay, you want me to show up to help boost the ratings, but then you don't want to pay me. So basically, Kim and Kanye were trying to use that association to boost ratings. And then when Beyonce, you know, Beyonce's a Virgo. Virgos are very intelligent. When Beyonce and Jay-Z decided not to go to the wedding because it was going to be televised, they weren't going to be paid for it, and they were simply going to be used for the association, then Kim and Kanye tried to act like their feelings were hurt. And that's the message that they tried to present to the public. So I just really want us to understand that while I do think it's necessary for us to be cautious about our dealings with each other, you know, as Black women, and then especially Black men, we also have to understand that there are non-Black women who will use us for a come up. They'll use us because, let's face it, everyone pays attention to whatever we're tuned into as Black women. So understand that a lot of these women, if they're befriending you as an adult and you realize that they're the only ones gaining from the association, you might want to distance yourself from that woman because you don't want to be used in the ways that women like Kim Kardashian and her sisters have used Black women, and in the ways that Cardi B is trying to use Black women. I don't think she's going to be able to have a full-on reset because I think Cardi will be her own undoing. But even the fact that, you know, she admitted openly to drugging and robbing people, and people still listen to her music, they still support her. And after that admission, she was nominated for all of these Billboard Music Awards. Are you kidding me? That would never be allowed for a Black woman. The fact that she's now turning on the Shade Room after they are part of the reason that Bodak Yellow got to #1. And you had no problem with the fact that, you know, the woman running the Shade Room is an overweight Black woman. You had no problem when the Shade Room was posting positive stories. When they're posting positive stories and they're helping your music get to #1, you had no problem with the association with that Black woman. But now, because she posted a story that you didn't like, you tried to cyberbully her, and no one is calling that out. Because remember, there was a blogger that had posted something about Nicki Minaj, and Nicki said it wasn't true. And Nicki was telling people, hey, this person, and I think she added the woman, You had all these people saying, oh, Nikki's bullying her and Nikki caused this woman to get fired. Okay, but she didn't post the woman's picture and try to have people go in on her looks. And this wasn't a blogger that was promoting her and her music. Notice she didn't start coming for Tasha K until, Tasha started reporting a balanced view of Cardi, and I don't always agree with anybody on here, but one thing I will say is that Tasha K is pretty balanced. She's not biased. That's when she started coming for Tasha K, and I don't know if y'all caught it, but it's either Tea Tenders or Gossip. I think it's Gossip in the City, where Tasha K and other bloggers proved that Gossip in the City got a cash payment from Cardi B. And Gossip in the City had posted something on Instagram basically apologizing for the stories that she had posted about Cardi and Offset. And then everybody finds out that she was paid. But there are some Black women bloggers that you can't pay off. They're just going to report the story as they see it or based on the information that they get. So I'm going to read some of you all's comments. Make sure I spoke to everyone. Yep, Cardi does look down on dark skin. I think that's part of the reason why it took her so long to show her daughter. Her daughter is beautiful, by the way. But I think it took her so long to show her daughter because her daughter's complexion is more of a blend of her and Offset's. Oh, that's a good point, Delphia. I think the one girl from City Girls, I think she's kind of pretty, but I have noticed that for the most part, Cardi doesn't really seem to associate with a whole lot of pretty women, pretty Black women. And she talks about the old school Black women in hip hop, but she never features them on her songs. I have definitely paid attention to that because Missy Elliott, Rah Digga, Little Kim, Remy Ma, all of them were supporting her, I believe, to spite Nicki Minaj. But they were all supporting Cardi. But I was like, but you never give them a feature though. That's a good point, Mika. I think that some colorist women, they have children with Black men because they know that their daughters in particular will be uplifted within the Black community. That's why they insist that their children are Black. Because notice, I got to talk about this. Notice, okay, Meghan Markle has a beautiful, classy, elegant mother who happens to be a Black woman. And when Meghan Markle was interviewed in the past about how she sees herself when it comes to her race, Meghan was honest. She said she was taught to understand that she is a mixed woman and she's proud of every aspect of her heritage. Notice that when Black women have children with non-Black men, it's like they don't try to insist that those children are Black. They seem to do a better job at teaching their children that you can acknowledge the fact that you are a mixed race person while also being proud of the part of your heritage that is Black. But when a non-Black woman and a Black man have a child, it's like they try to insist that the child is Black. And they do that because they know, especially in the case of their daughters, they know that their daughters will be uplifted and put on a pedestal ahead of, Black women and girls who have two Black parents. that if Cardi had gotten with a man who wasn't dark skinned, she wouldn't see. They know that darker skinned black men kind of worship them almost. So if she had gotten with a non-black man or a black man who was biracial, she knows that she wouldn't have been kind of put on the pedestal that a lot of black men put her on. Yep, hyper fanatic. Since Cardi has been around, there are people trying to destroy Nicki Minaj, because what a lot of people do, right, is like, you have to understand the power of association, even if it's a negative association, right? Notice how you have a lot of women coming up in hip hop now, whether it's Malibu Mitch, Lisa Mercedes, Miss Banks, Lady Leisure, Megan Thee Stallion. Even though I don't really like their style of music, City Girls. I mean, you have so many black women coming up, and you notice that there are no black women in hip hop who are one album in and already being compared to someone who has over 100 top 100 Billboard hits, who has outsold every woman in hip hop and a lot of the men. But see, by associating Cardi with Nicki Minaj, even if it's a negative association, it kind of catapulted Cardi into superstardom. Because it's like, wow, if you're comparing her to Nicki Minaj, there are a lot of people who, when it comes to the way that Nicki Minaj moves career-wise, there are some people who would say that on a smaller scale, she's kind of like the woman's version of Jay-Z in hip-hop. So when you compare Cardi to someone with that status, you're automatically giving her a position that she hasn't earned. So that's why Cardi's team, when they compare her to people, they don't compare her to the newer girls. They don't compare her to Lil' Kim and Remy Ma. They're comparing her to the most successful woman in hip hop. And it's because of the power of association. That's true, Bruna. No quality white man would want Cardi. She's way too uncouth. Yeah, Delphi, I understand that. There are a lot of people that don't like Nicki Minaj. I like her. I just understand that her music is not appropriate for children. So I don't understand why parents would let their children really listen to any hip hop artist. But yeah. Oh, J-Lo's another one. That's true, Bruna. Once J-Lo got to a certain position in her career, she no longer associated with black people. Oh yeah, Delphia, she knows better than to try that with TMZ, but you're right. Oh, that's a good point, Hyperfanatic. I think, Courtney seems to be pretty cool, and I think Kendall is grounded. Like, I think that how do I say this? I don't think that she's caught up or as caught up in the hype as Kylie and some of the other sisters. So they do seem to be a little more genuine to me, because I always respect people who don't try to be something other than who they are. So I feel like, okay, the Kardashians are white Armenians, right? So I respect the fact that Courtney and Kendall don't try to take on a culture that doesn't belong to them. Oh, that's a good point. I can care less. They do use mammies. Because unfortunately, there are a lot of black women who they see more beauty in non-black women than they see in themselves and other black women. Yes, Mariah, a lot of people act like, having kids means that you're just sleeping with people all over the place. And that's not true. People overlook the fact that Sierra and Future were actually engaged. They were preparing to get married, and then she came to her senses. Yes, Mariah, that's true. Kim had that porn video, And now she is actually trying to be a lawyer. And if she can pass the test, they will let her do it because she's using that white girl reset button. And notice they did not want to extend that same courtesy to Jordyn Woods. When Tristan hit on Jordyn Woods and kissed her, those Kardashian girls basically were trying to act like, you know, she was a whore and all this stuff. And it's like, okay, no, your man was out of order. So they were not going to extend that courtesy to Jordyn. But white girls use that reset all the time. They whore around in their youth, and once they hit their late 20s, they're able to clean their image up. Unfortunately, that opportunity is often not offered to us. Hyperfanatic, yeah, I do think Beyonce is shy off stage, but also because she's a Virgo, she's probably naturally distrusting of people. But I think that has probably benefited her in her career. Right, Bruna? I thought it was funny too, but there are people who seriously believe that Beyonce is jealous of Kim Kardashian. I have seen these non-Black women talking about that on social media, and I'm like, are you drunk? Are you high? Like, why? Yep, I can care less. A lot of them do sleep their way to the top. Yes, Mariah. Kim literally copies everything that Beyonce does style-wise. Yeah, I don't think they like Black women. They just use Black women to social climb. And all I'm saying is, if people are using you for a come up, then make sure that you also benefit from the friendships. Because the Kardashians, it's like most of the Black women that they initially were friends with, they either discarded them or those Black women realized that they were being used and they moved on. Because Trina has talked about it. I think the interviews where DJ Vlad asked her about it are still up. But Trina has talked a little bit about how Khloe Kardashian openly made a move on French Montana knowing that they were together. Which doesn't surprise me because that's the same thing she did with Tristan. According to Khloe Kardashian, she met Tristan at Kevin Hart and Aniko's wedding. Tristan's first baby's mom and Aniko Hart are cousins, meaning that Tristan would have been at the wedding with the bride's cousin. And that's where Khloe met him. So she knew he wasn't single. I don't understand her music either. That's true, I can care less. There are mammies who actively work with other people to erase the Black woman's image. Yep, Mariah, unfortunately, a lot, I'm not saying all, but a lot of non-Black women who date Black men, they sound just as hateful as Black men. Just as hateful. Do you understand? I caught something in a live chat, y'all, where there was a guy who was going in on some YouTubers. And I'm not saying the channel name because it's a pretty small channel. I would say the channel is probably smaller than mine. So very, very small channel. But a woman who is married to a Black man was in the comment section. And let me see if I still have it. Because sometimes when I see stuff that's interesting to me, I kind of bookmark it. But because I want to read to y'all what she said if I still have it. She said, I don't want to sound like most of the cursing Black women that down talk their man. I'm proud to be, and she said her ethnicity. And it's like, okay, this particular person is not even from an area where there's a lot of Black people. So where would she get that impression of Black women? From her Black husband. Never thought to question it, but just repeating that talking point. Yeah, Nikki is petty across the board to everyone. Anyone can get it. Yeah, Bruna, I think Young Miami is cute. Yep, hyper fanatic. Meghan Markle is mixed race, and her mother. I mean, think about how ridiculous it would look if you had Black women and non-Black men having children together and insisting that those children were white. People would look at you like you were crazy. Or if the products of those unions walked around insisting that, oh yeah, because my father's Latino, a white Latino, I'm white, or because my father's Chinese, I'm Chinese. Think about how dumb people would think that is. And think about how much of a psychotic narcissist you have to be to take a child who is clearly mixed race, and there's nothing wrong with being mixed race, but to take a child who is clearly mixed race and to teach that child that they are one race over the other. You're literally creating a situation where that child is going to grow up to be confused, and they're going to feel like they have to pick one side over the other. Whereas you can be a mixed race person and still respect your heritage, you know? Yeah, Delphia, unfortunately, with Little Kim, Little Kim only beefs with Black women. And Little Kim is one of those women where if you're beefing with somebody that she doesn't like, then she'll support you. Because she did the same thing with Iggy Azalea. Because, back in the day, Nicki Minaj and Iggy Azalea didn't really get along because Nicki Minaj called out the fact that T.I. and the other Black men supporting Iggy were using her to try to replace Black women. And so Iggy kind of got in her feelings about it. And Little Kim all of a sudden started talking about how she liked Iggy Azalea. But did Iggy Azalea ever give Little Kim a feature? Let me look. Because I don't want to be wrong. So I'm going to Google song with Iggy Azalea and Lil Kim. Let me see if they did a song together. Okay, according to what I'm finding, according to what I'm finding, Iggy never gave Little Kim a feature. But yet, because of Little Kim's position in hip hop, her saying that, oh, this girl is really talented, or I support this girl, her saying that is going to mean something to the fans. And Little Kim still has a pretty solid base of fans. So that means she's throwing her fan support to that person without requiring anything in return. Because if I'm Little Kim, I'm sorry, maybe it sounds wrong, but if I were Little Kim, I wouldn't publicly support any new artist unless they were willing to do a feature. Why? Because when you feature with a newer artist, you reintroduce yourself to the younger audience of people. But unfortunately, Little Kim is not very strategic in how she moves. So, there's that. And I don't think she recognizes that in some ways these other women are using her. Because again, if you go back to what we were saying about the power of association, by associating herself with Little Kim, that gives Cardi a certain amount of clout. It puts her in a situation where Cardi should be compared to like Megan Thee Stallion, Malibu Mitch, and other new girls, because she's only one album in. But it puts Cardi in a situation where when people compare her to other women in hip hop, they're comparing her to the GOATs. You know, Little Kim is a legend. Nicki Minaj, a lot of people don't want to give her this, but Nicki Minaj is a legend. And she owns all of her masters. Remy Ma, I wouldn't Remy Ma is very talented. I wouldn't necessarily call her legendary just because she hasn't had that many albums, but she's definitely very talented. So that comparison automatically puts Cardi in the status of a legend. And it's like, okay, cool, but like Nicki Minaj said on Queen Radio, if you're so cool with Little Kim and Remy Ma, how come you didn't ask them to be on your song when I said I couldn't do it? If y'all are so cool, how come you didn't give them the feature? Now, it was messy for Nicki Minaj to say that, but she was telling the truth. That's true hyper fanatic. Beyonce and Solange are very beautiful. And I think Solange also has a beautiful soul. Like, she's just, I don't know, she has a light, which makes sense. I think her name literally means soul angel. But they're both very beautiful women. Yes, Delphia, she let those men use her. Everything that Little Kim does is petty. Do you understand that her daughter's father is Foxy Brown's ex-boyfriend? Dated Foxy Brown first. Little Kim is so petty that she had a baby with the dude that used to date her nemesis, Foxy Brown. Crazy. Yep, Delphia, that's true. That is worthy of respect. Respecting a woman who will cut you off if you can't do anything for her, and she's not afraid to comfort people. Yeah, Mariah, Beyonce does look very natural. She's a very natural looking woman. You know, she wears makeup and stuff like that, but even when she takes the makeup off, you can see she's a naturally pretty girl. And I think her hair is naturally light colored. I don't know if it's naturally blonde, but if you look at her son, his hair color is like a reddish brown. And Solange's son, his hair was that color when he was very, very little. So I think, that's true. That's true, Mariah. A lot of times they have identity issues, and I think part of that is because their fathers insist on forcing them to just acknowledge one side of their identity. Yep, Delphia, and you'll notice there are a lot of celebrities like that. Yeah, I'm sure she's not naturally blonde, although there are some Black women, depending on their ancestry. If you go to parts of the South, you'll see some Black women with naturally blonde, red, and like very light brown hair. But no, I think looking at her little kid pictures, I think her natural hair color is probably like a sandy color, maybe like a brownish color. But yeah, there are a lot of celebrities that don't publicly support an artist, because there are some people, especially the way information travels so quickly because of social media, that if you have a certain amount of status, then saying someone's name automatically gets that person to a certain level of success. Like, even if you look at people with very, very big YouTube channels, they don't willy-nilly call out other channels' names. And when I say big channels, I'm talking about people with like millions of subscribers, like PewDiePie. If you really notice, you don't hear him talk about a lot of other YouTubers. And again, they do that because if you have millions of people subscribe to you on YouTube or millions of followers on Instagram or Twitter, then saying someone's name means that you are exposing them to millions of new people. So I just wanted to make this very quickly, just as I think in 2019, we need to remind these people how they came up. You know, we need to stop making it so easy for people to forget the ways that we as Black women have helped a lot of these people become successful. Um, but also I think we need to apply that in our personal lives, you know, because as Black women, because a lot of us are moving into different circles because of our skills and our education, and you see a lot of Black women becoming entrepreneurs, we're being exposed to other groups of people, which is not a bad thing, right? But what that's going to mean is we have to understand how other groups of people operate, along with understanding how Black people operate. And you have to understand that there are some people, some of these non Black women, they're not associating with you because of your great personality. They're doing it because they see that there's something useful that they can gain from that relationship. And so it's not necessarily wrong with it. That's how people network. All I'm saying is when you see people do that to you, make sure that you are also benefiting from the association. All right. Anyway, I hope you all have a great day. It's Wednesday, so we are at the midway point of the week, which is wonderful. So I'm going to try to do another live stream tomorrow afternoon. So until then, have a good day, and I'll talk to y'all soon.